no such thing as a Big A dark day here on MSG Plus as we roll from Aqueduct's Clubhouse studio on our latest edition of the National Racing Report. The sun is always out at the Big A, the bright lights of our studio, and no December doldrums, boys, over the next half hour. It's Richard Migliore, Andy Serling, and Jason Blewett. 4 tracks, 10 races, and a lot of ground to cover, even though the year is winding down.
I agree. There's always something fun happening in horse racing. That's just another reason we love the game.
Yeah, and we're into December, but it doesn't feel like December, does it? It feels like springtime, although I guess this racing report is like a December racing report.
It is. It's a harbinger of things to come, especially down at Gulfstream Park. And maybe we saw a big win first off the claim for a horse on the inner track who might be one of the better handicap horses in New York over the winter. More on that, though, as the show progresses. I do like that shirt and tie quite a bit.
Thanks.
Very nice shirt.
That.
Yeah, you look good, man.
Nice. I'm glad you noticed.
You look good, too. Let's move on to the action at Low South. Grade 1, 300 Gs. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm very impressed with that shirt and tie. Anyway, let's Mike Smith. Still getting it done. He's 6th in the nation in graded stakes victories on the year, and here are the 2-year-old fillies and the Starlet.
I tell you one thing, Richie. It seems like the stretch at this place goes on forever.
Well, it is, in fact, the longest stretch on the dirt in North America.
It's got to be. I mean, it's amazing watching this race how much happens in the stretch. And I actually thought the Baffert horse stretching out pretty cool. She ran amazingly well to finish 4th. And one of the more interesting things I thought, Richie, was that were 2 Baffert horses sort of going after each other early.
Yeah, different ownerships, yeah. But you know,
both playing to win.
Yeah, but you would kind of hope, like, if you're the trainer, guys, like, just take care of each other a little bit. But I understand what's fair is fair.
And also, right, what's fair is fair. I think it's important that happens so that the fans can't say, oh, you know, he's letting one win or whatever. Pretty Cool is a sprinter, and Bob, one thing about Bob, he's not afraid to use a horse's speed.
No, not at all. And Jason, don't you think that because of the tight turns, in spite of that long stretch, guys tend to use their horses a bit more at Los Alamitos?
Would that be your plan if you were still riding?
Well, you know, it's interesting because watching it, I wind up thinking the second horse, Stays in Vegas, was the best horse. I mean, she was most involved and hung around. And, you know, the winner, Street Fancy, was very patiently handled.
She's 3rd to last. Mike had asked her, and she's down towards the inside in the last pack. Mike had asked her a little bit to keep up. But what's interesting here, and I think it shows how Mike knew how much time he still had, he's not really aggressively into her. He's hitting her, he's riding her, but it's not like he's panicking.
No, not at all. And I think she needed a little separation because she wasn't running through the kickback much. It wasn't that she was worried about running inside horses. She was still getting the spray. But when they spread out and she had an unhindered path where nothing was getting thrown in her face, she rallied on. And this is a filly that's somewhat of a bad actor. I don't know if you saw her antics in the post.
Oh, I didn't. Was she a real handful?
Mike was off her for about 2 or 3 minutes. She kept freezing. She kept throwing herself down. I think this is a filly with a lot of talent that needs to kind of settle down to actually improve, but I still think the second horse was the best horse.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying, and I don't think it's a question of the second horse not seeing her. I think she kind of got the jump on her. The second horse was fighting even to come back, and with the trip, I can't argue with anything you're saying. She was probably best. It's interesting watching these 2-year-old fillies at this point. Obviously, Songbird is head and shoulders better than them.
Yeah.
It feels like Rachel's Valentina is the second one. There's room behind them, but we're not seeing any horses that are closing the gap at this point.
No, not at this point, but, you know, they do change a lot over the next few months. And a filly like this who, you know, I thought this was impressive that she was able to rally through traffic like that. I think if she ever learns to just kind of settle down, because she had to use a lot of energy in the post-parade.
I still feel, and I don't know if I guess we taped the show and this race was on Sunday, Shug's first-time star, the Daydreaming filly that won here last Sunday, she got a 78 or 79 buyer, winning quite easily, and that's just a first start. She feels like a horse. And what is her name? Do you remember?
I can't remember. She's by Medallia d'Oro out of Daydreaming.
Yeah, she really feels like one that might take a step forward down in Florida this winter and then going forward.
Well, and the fact that she won first time out for Shug, who doesn't tend to crank them up to win first time.
And it wasn't a collapse in the race like she just was far back and put in a run. I mean, she was push button beneath Jose Ortiz, quick 3-wide move, and just had the 2 to her inside around the 3/8 pole by the throat and easily kicked clear.
We'll try to get her name before the show is over. And also, what's interesting is the dam Daydreaming. She's the dam Imagining, who's won almost $2 million or well over $1 million in the turf. Yet Daydreaming broke her maiden in very similar fashion at Saratoga, sitting just off the pace and winning by 9 lengths. So she seems to resemble her dam, which may be a very good thing.
You guys get some memories.
And Imagining, by the way, kicking off
7th in the race, I think. It wasn't a terrible ride.
Right. Tell us about
I think a better ride.
Tell us about the trip. You know, 2016 down in Maryland for Imagining. He'll be a freshman sire down south, and wish him the best of luck. He was a good horse that danced a lot of dances for Shug. We'll see what his half-sister can do going forward. As we go forward to our first of two races here at the Big A, Saturday 7th, we pulled this race and have it towards the front end of the show, thinking that win or lose, leave the light on the returning horse from the inside, and your Remsen winner would be in the picture at some point.
Well, he wasn't in the picture, and they weren't going to get involved in what was a quick pace here, but he really had no run, and we could talk about him later. Thought it was a very good ride by Manny Franco, asserting himself on the front end with Ciro, doing what he had to do from that 9-post and getting there. But it was Day of Fury and Harry Hernandez. Richie, he is an apprentice for the future that would not be denied, and while he finished second, he ran the best race, Day of Fury.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is a very fast pace for the inner track, 46-4 around 2 turns. And the horse was keen. He was aggressive. The kid didn't get in a fight with him. I've seen him do a lot of things that I like. He's patient when he needs to be patient. He's aggressive when he needs to be aggressive. And I think he's the most polished of what I think is a fairly talented young group of riders here.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with Eric Cancel as the winner progresses. I'd love to see him get back to his more aggressive style. I think that's what worked well for him. Our Caravan is sitting fourth right now, just got a very, very good trip here, and situation of using his natural speed, not that he's going to be close to the pace, but he's going to be near enough that he won't be compromised.
He got his position going forward. And then he settled in that good spot. I have a question for you, the third-place finisher, Farhan. He's rallying inside of the eventual winner in the blue Shadwell Silks. Do you think him getting stymied in here cost him his best chance? Because you had to think, our Caravan's got horse. How are you really getting out of that spot without being hampered?
I don't know. It's interesting you bring it up. And by the way, I needed a winner run second to do very well in here. I had this discussion with my friend Nick Tamaro last night. He felt he was badly stopped while rallying. I'm not sure he didn't make his move from the half-mile pole to the top of the stretch. And he didn't flatten out a little bit, but he did have trouble.
My opinion was it was a combination of both things. Yeah. I thought he put in a long, sustained run, middle move too much, and middle moved into a bad spot. Be more patient. Think about it. Look up in front of you and say, wow, our Caravan's moving well. Let me just kind of follow him, ease out, and follow his wake as opposed to forcing my way into that spot.
Yeah, and when he went inside and he got inside of our Caravan, I think he denied himself the opportunity to do that. And sometimes it's a question of trying to save ground, which is obviously important to do, but making sure that you're in the clear. And in this case, he would have been better off losing a little ground and being in the clear.
Well, and it also would have made him be a little bit more patient, save a little bit more horse before he tipped out. You have to know the horses you're riding against and the riders you're riding against. And for me, Ruben Silvera is a very aggressive, bordering on dirty at times. You're not going to put yourself in that spot and think you're going to get through there cleanly.
Well, that's one thing, right. And in this case, it was not dirty ride. It was good ride.
No, it was good race ride.
Legally shutting off a horse or being... I wouldn't say he shut him up because actually it was the horse in green.
Well, it was Integrity who started to drift out and things really closed up.
But you're not going to get an inch, especially when you've got horse on the outside. When you put yourself there, good luck.
No, I agree.
Let's get back to Rudy Rodriguez real fast and Mike Dubb. Rudy has been gangbusters since the start of racing back in early November here at Aqueduct. Just breaking down his straight-up Aqueduct numbers since the beginning of November. He's 20 for his last 60 for 33%. Off the claim, he's 9 for 16.
It's unbelievable. And yet this horse was off the claim for Mike Dubb, one of the best claiming owners we've had in the game for many years, and the horse paid $18.
And you know what? He looked really good warming up, too. Did I do anything? No.
I'll tell you a horse, though, out of this race that you might want to look in an easier spot. Integrity. He was going first time for Danny Gargan. Now, I do wonder if this is the kind of horse that's been in good form. Will he continue to hold it? He was in Rudy's barn. But Danny does a good job. He never had a chance in this race because he didn't break that sharply, and he always was chasing wide.
And chasing wide on the inner track is a very difficult thing to do.
Especially against a fast pace.
All right, we'll see what the son of Daher does going forward for Michael Dubb as we have a Gulfstream Park Pick 4, the Harlan's Holiday, a couple of turf races, and some good finishes coming up from South Florida on the other side of this quick timeout. Let's continue on the racing report, and it's December after all. We're getting close to the holiday break, and with that in mind, well, here's a friendly reminder with that 2016 Naira calendar sale. $3 a calendar, Saturday, December 26th. We're in action the day right after Christmas Day, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I was thinking about this. This is the first ever Naira calendar that will have a Triple Crown winner in it. Pretty cool.
That is probably true. I doubt we had a calendar back in the 70s.
I doubt they had calendars back in the 70s.
We were still using sundials, I think, back then.
Browse, by the way. That's the Phipps filly for Shug.
Yeah, Browse is a horse. Thank you, Jason. Is a horse to keep your eye on. We'll see her. I would imagine she's gone down to Florida. We'll see how patient Shug is with her.
You would think. Now let's get to the action down at Gulfstream Park, kicking off with their, I would call this the feature on Saturday's card, the Harlan's Holiday. Some familiar names, maybe none more familiar than Valid, who winds up winning, and the runner-up Made from Lucky, who I didn't like at all and thought he ran pretty well.
No, Made from Lucky did run pretty well, especially you consider this was a race, Richie, that was basically dominated in the front end. The speed at a price finished third, and Valid under a perfect ride by Javier Castellano. He ends up winning the race, and Made from Lucky was always sort of chasing.
Always sort of chasing. Also, Johnny Velasquez dropped his whip about the 3/8 pole, and Made from Lucky is a horse that needs to be reminded about his job. And I do think there's times when a rider loses a whip, it doesn't make a difference. I do believe it might have made somewhat of a difference here.
No, I think that's a very reasonable situation. I'll tell you one thing. You want to see the handicap division develop. Now, Liam's Map won this race last year, and he beat Valid. And Valid is a good, hard-knocking horse, but we need to see some stars, and we've lost some serious horses over the last few months.
Yeah, racing's loss has been the Stud Farms gains, especially this year. It seemed like it was just a plethora of horses going up to be.
They were older horses in most of their cases, to be fair.
Sure.
They were horses that were 4 years old. I do wish Liam's Map has stuck around, especially with him going to Lane's End, where you've now got Tonalist and Honor Code standing there. Did he really have to go to Stud?
But Lane's End, that's just an embarrassment of riches.
Reminds me of Darley back at the end of '07 when they picked up Street Sense, Curlin, and Hardspun.
No, you're right. That's a very, very good analogy. Made from Lucky's on the far outside in the green making the run. And you're right, he's always in that wide position. He's always trying to make up ground. He's that kind of horse. And the truth is his running style, the whip, but his running style is his biggest hindrance.
Yeah. And just for people who don't know, Johnny's hitting him with his goggles.
He's still doing that even after getting fined the other day?
Yeah, that's illegal, correct, Mig?
Well,
or
I
illegal
don't know,
in New York.
At least illegal in New York. Jurisdiction after jurisdiction, I don't know. I like the ride that Joe Bravo gave Mr. Jordan. He tried to rip it open and get away from Valid. Valid was just very good, got a terrific ride from Javier Castellano, who was a late replacement for, was it Matthew Rispoli?
Yep.
Who the trainer made a decision. He said, and in Florida, unlike New York, you can take a rider off without having to pay a double jocks fee.
Oh, very
so he just made a decision. I can have Javier Castellano, the leading rider in the country. Now that hurts a young rider's pride, but business-wise, you can kind of understand.
And that's what he said. He said, nothing personal, it's just business, and Rispoli still rides for me. But you can't have a guy who might be favored. I get the Victor Espinoza thing, but a guy who, at least on the numbers, deserves his third consecutive Eclipse Award.
No, they're trying to win, and they owe it to the owners, they owe it to the public to get the best guy. And I don't know if you saw, Javier was interviewed after the race. And by the way, somebody's been giving him lessons, because I think he's looking to steal our jobs. Because he was so good. He was looking at the camera.
So all those insider interviews with him.
Tremendous, right? So, but he also mentioned that, and he said he felt bad about the situation, but, that's sort of the game. But at least he did mention that.
But that is the game. When you're young and you're starting out, you're going to get replaced by guys that are having more success than you. And then as you build your success, then it's your turn to take advantage of those situations. It's cyclical. It's the way it goes. And as far as the Eclipse Award goes, there is historical precedence. We've had 3 Triple Crown winners, 73 since the Eclipse Awards. Turcotte did not win the Eclipse Award that year. Pink Eye did. In 77, Cawthon won it, not Krugay. In 78, Darryl McHarg won it, not Cawthon. So it's not as though automatically, because you win a Triple Crown, you're supposed to get the Eclipse Award.
Here's the problem. I agree with you. It shouldn't matter. It really should be the whole year of accomplishments. Not to say Victor didn't have a good year.
No, he had a great year.
But things have changed. In the 70s, Zenyatta wouldn't have been Horse of the Year over Blame. And I'm not saying that to open a wound. People can argue whatever they want. Things have changed. And I bet you in the 70s, frankly, the voters were more responsible.
They probably were. Maybe not as many voters as there are now. I mean, there are 3 distinct arms that do get to vote on the Eclipse Awards. And I'll tell you, Javier, when it was all said and done by Saturday's last at Gulfstream, he's got $27.6 million in the bank with a few weeks to go on the year.
No, he's had an amazing year and probably better than any year he had when he won the Eclipse Award. And it just seems like they're focusing in. You could make the same argument last year at the Eclipse Awards when Todd Pletcher won the Best Trainer. I think Todd would be the first one to say, I probably didn't deserve it this year. He's deserved it many, many times, but not last year. And I think the voters spend too much time looking at a few distinct races. They look at money won, and they're not looking at the year as a whole. And I think the voters are irresponsible in that manner.
Yeah, Triple Crown has long, at least over the last 20 years, really had a strong impact on the Eclipses. Let's move on to the Rampart. Marty Wolfson back home down at Florida. He's got that base year-round at Gulfstream, and he won winds up running 1-2 in the Rampart. Although, to be fair, this was not a vintage Rampart. This was a pretty average field.
It wasn't a strong field. I think they usually run it much later in the year, and I believe they moved it up significantly. And I understand why they did that. Callie Starr, I actually thought she ran pretty well. It's a very good ride.
Oh, very good ride. I'm very impressed with Tyler Gaffleone. He's a kid that has shown a lot of consistency. And to me, a young rider can be talented, but if they're not consistent, that's a problem. And this kid's very consistent. Day in, day out, he rides a good race.
And he comes off of getting thrown coming out of the gate and getting injured earlier in the week. And fortunately, it wasn't anything serious. He was able to come back. I think he missed Thursday, came back on Friday. It happened on Wednesday. And he always kept his position. You know, Richie, when I'm watching this race, I was thinking about some trips and traps that you and I have done. When we talk about it, you talk about how important it is to hold that position and continue to go forward on the inside. And he knew he had room to get in the 3. He probably knew that horse was drifting.
Yeah, no doubt. And you could see he was intent on not getting shuffled back out of the spot. You know, it was interesting because if you look at the eventual runner-up, Best Behavior's going a lot easier, albeit wide. And he had to really ride to get in the spot. And, you know, I wondered at one point, would she bottom out? But like a lot of Marty Wolfson's horses, she kept finding.
She's now a perfect 2-for-2 off a trainer change to Marty. And where were we when she debuted for Marty back on November 18th and paid 3-1 down at Gulfstream?
I know. I saw that, too. And I was looking at the race and I said, oh, we missed an opportunity. That's your job, Jason. You're supposed to tell me about those first-time Marty Wolfson horses. I agree. The second horse did run well on the outside. One of the keys, when you talk about kickback, I think kickback is as important down at Gulfstream as any racetrack in the country because you talk to riders, I'm sure you have, and you talk to even trainers, and they say the kickback down there can really hit you hard.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the consistency of the racetrack, how, you know, the way the surface is made up. Not that I'm knocking the surface, it's just the way it is. California, it clods up, so you get hit with big clods. It tends to break blood vessels in your arms, your shoulders, so what does it do to a horse's face? So you could see the spray at times, and it comes back very hard. And it takes a certain horse, a certain constitution, to be able to run through that without paying any attention to it.
And maybe that goes back to when you've got the short stretch there, early speed tends to do pretty well. You don't see too many paces completely fall apart on that main track.
And I think it's one of the reasons people will say it's a speed track, and it's not a speed track. I think it's just horses are hindered by the kickback, and a lot of the movers you see closing, they're coming on the far outside.
You know, I think it was the case, too, with the Intertrack for a number of years as well. I mean, yes, speed could be good, but horses refusing to run through that kickback because a lot of Greystone in it.
All right, we've got a close photo coming up. 2 more to bring you from Gulfstream Park, and this might be our best finish on tonight's show, the El Prado. It was Corey Lannery who claimed foul against the eventual winner, Reporting Star. Pair of 9-5 shots, first and second in a good race.
I have no idea why he claimed foul. If anything, he actually forced his way into this horse in the stretch, watching the head-on. Imagine you doing the same thing. Frankly, I think Corey's a little annoyed because he seemed to be doing the right thing, and he got skunked by a horse that was ridden hard and wide the entire trip.
Yeah, the entire trip. And then I do think he was trying to lay in the stretch, so it looked on the pan shot, you go, well, maybe that horse was lugging in on top of him. But I agree with you. I think it was more that Corey said, all right, I got the spot. I got to force my way out a little bit. And you're going to even see the rider on the outside. Is it Mario Vasquez?
I think.
Miguel.
Miguel, okay. Yeah. Miguel Vasquez. You're going to see he's going right-handed, but here he's going to like start pulling off him a little bit. And that led me to believe when I watched the pan that maybe he leaned into him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And when I first saw it, I saw the inquiry, I thought this horse could be in trouble. And then you saw the head-on, and it was not the same thing as what happened with the race yesterday, but he forced his way out. The winner was the best horse. Joe Bravo does some very good things. I don't know what he was doing with Plainview.
Was that the plan with McKagan in the race? How could you rate that horse?
It felt like he didn't instantly give him what he wanted, and so he kind of let him go back. I think that Plainview's a horse that we've seen him be fast and be a kind of horse with a cruising speed, and he kind of took him back a little bit when he didn't immediately get to the front of another horse, and then he ended up fighting him the whole way, and it may have just been inexperience riding a horse that might not be that easy to ride.
I think that's the key. Jose Lezcano knows this horse so well. He kind of lets him bounce and run on because he's a horse that doesn't change gears. He's capable of going fast and maintaining it.
Is Jose Lezcano, is he not riding at Gulfstream Park yesterday? Because I was wondering that myself. I know that it's a horse for David Jacobson, but Jose has done such a good job with this horse. He has to be the guy you want on him.
Yeah, he has fit that horse to a T alongside trainer Greg DePriva. We'll see what Jacobson can do. I think Plainview's already compiled 3 races off that pricey $60,000 claim for Jacobson in a short short amount of time. And let's wrap things up at Gulfstream Park. Another tight finish, length and change, with Chris DiCarlo riding for Bill Mott on Tutti Paesi, the Irish bred for Team Valor Ladies.
We saw a similar situation with Tutti Paesi when Chris had her 2 to 3 wide the whole way out in the clear. And you see Joe. I thought Joe gave the 6 Hope Cross. It was over bet at 5 to 2. A sensational ride, gave her every chance to win this race. Found a seam, Richie, to get through, but the other horse in the clear might have got the momentum going.
Yeah, maybe she had the momentum, but I agree with you. And you could see Joe threading the needle in between horses behind that first flight, and now he just needs a place to go. And you could see he's trying to handicap the horse in front of him. Who's traveling? Who can I follow? And now he ducks back in, and maybe the other filly had just put the stamp on the race, or maybe she was best.
I agree with you. I thought Joe gave this horse a sensational ride because he never stops riding. Jason and I were watching this race live, and we could see she had horse. We were both a little surprised she was 5 to 2. We were wondering how Chad was doing this race.
Chad, exactly.
Unbelievable. I mean, this year, because she's just off an allowance win, and Tutti Paesi's horse has had some stops and starts, but a very good ride. And I'm happy to see Chris DiCarlo, who's spending the winter here, but he'll go out of town, pick up mounts, goes down to Florida, pick one up for Bill Mott, gets the money.
I think Chris is very underrated. I think he's a very good rider. Very tactical, strategic kind of rider. I think what hurts him at times is he's not real flashy. Like, everything he does is very smooth, very even, and I think he tends to get overlooked. Maybe that's the way to put it, because I think day in, day out, he rides a good race.
I can't argue with anything you're saying.
No, he's prepared for sure. We'll look for him back in the saddle this coming Wednesday, and he has the agent of the stars, our good buddy Winston. As we wrap up the show, we've got a trip to Fairgrounds and, of course, the New York-bred fillies and mares in the Bay Ridge on the other side of this quick timeout. Back at it this coming Wednesday, week number 2 on the Inner Track. We'll have that first post at 12:20. The calendar giveaway the day after Christmas. It's the Mig, Andy, and Jason wrapping things up down the stretch on this edition of the Racing Report. We had Leave the Light on and the fact he didn't run a step on Saturday in the 7th race. This was the race following it, and it played the feature in a big pick 6 carryover, and a pick 6 that was hit for $151,000.
Say a couple of things. I think Sharifa ran very well, and she seems to be a horse now going to be effective rating. The last 16th of a mile got her, and this was another situation. We saw this earlier in the week too, where Jose Ortiz is getting extremely good, Richie, at getting his position going forward.
And it seems like he's holding the key to how to ride the inner track. You want to save ground. It doesn't mean you can't come out later, but saving ground is just so important. And he got his position, and basically now he's given himself options, because if the filly in front of him stops, he's going to follow Sharifa, and that's what good riders do. They give themselves options.
I agree, and it seems as though he made a decision that turned out to be the right one, which is, I have to beat Sharifa. I have enough speed to put myself in position. She is going to be tactical and towards the front, and I'm going to follow her every move and hope that she tires down the lane. It's one of the reasons I picked her. I thought she might get the distance and might get a perfect trip. That's what she got, a perfect trip.
She had both, and there's one glaring thing here, too. Sharifa doesn't change leads. She's hanging on that left lead. The other filly, 3 Hail Marys, switched leads properly and came running, and I really think that's important the last 1/8 of a mile.
And that's been pretty much Sharifa's M.O. She has looked a little funky, and even some of her blowout wins, she's got a distinct style in which she rarely switches to that outside lead. Mile and a 16th at the end of the day might be a little pushing it with her, too, right?
Especially against this quality horse when she's not able to dictate up front.
Sure.
It might have been a different race if she was dictating up front and everybody else had to play her game. But by forcing her to chase, it softened her up a little bit.
No, absolutely. And, you had said something before the race in the Prattle yesterday about Aaron Greider riding Carry Me Away. And Aaron's aggressive. He is going to use a horse to make sure he secures that position in the first turn. And I think he's going to be a good example for a lot of the young riders here this winter.
I hope so, because I love having Aaron around, because he's an aggressive rider. And if he's riding a horse with speed, you can count on Aaron to be aggressive. And I think that's all that horse players want. If you bet a horse, think, I want to bet this horse, I think he can wire the field. If the horse goes to the front and finishes 5th, so be it. It was a bad opinion.
Sure.
But if the horse is taken back to 3rd and somebody else wires the field at a slow pace, you have a right to be annoyed.
Yep, no question. John Morrison, by the way, the winning trainer, a filly by Repent. He stands for about $1,000. You might even be able to breed to him for free. She's a good one, though, say 3 Hail Marys. And Mig had a nice post race on Saturday's Insider, which is up on YouTube, in which Richard O'Connell's name was mentioned. We certainly have fond memories of him, talented horseman. Here we go at Fairgrounds as we have 3 races remaining on the show. This is the classic classic from Louisiana Champions Day.
Yeah, I was surprised in this race. This is the 10th race that the picket factor wasn't a heavier favor over Mobile Bay. This horse just looked much better and was ridden with extreme confidence, Richie.
Yeah, he was ridden with extreme confidence. And I guess this is like their New York Showcase Day. This is their Louisiana bred Showcase Day.
Yep. They had some big fields. Yeah, huge fields.
Big fields, long card. And this is a horse that was coming off a win down at Delta Downs, but has improved. And it finished actually fourth behind the second-place finisher, Mobile Bay. But it seemed like had really taken a step forward last time. And I guess that's why the odds were closer, because the runner-up Mobile Bay had beaten him in the Super Derby.
And Edgar Prado on the runner-up going down there for Louisiana Day.
Saddle will travel, just like DeCarlo. Edgar's turned back the clock in some regards as we have one double remaining in both races for 2-year-olds at Fairgrounds. And up first, we'll check out the 2-year-old Colts and Geldings in their 11th race.
This is an interesting race because the pace very much held together here, and the eventual winner, Seaval, was right in the middle of it the whole way. Keep your eye on the horse towards the inside. It was down the rail now in about 7th. That was P-Val, and that was the only horse to make up ground. She really threads the needle late to get second.
Yeah, really actually pretty impressive for a young horse to be able to rally through traffic like this. And talk about turning back the clock. Was this comeback number 19 for P-Val?
I'll take the over on that, Big.
There have been a lot of comebacks. They're hard to keep track of. In case you're interested, he is riding, I believe, at Fairgrounds this winter, at least as of now.
All right, Private Vow, horse by Private Vow. Remember him being a pretty good Asmussen 2-year-old Private Vow. I always liked him. One more race to take care of as the clock ticks, and we look at Aunt Nellie at 27-1, paid 57 on the nose in the Lassie.
Yeah, the heavy favorite was the Speed here. Came over. There was an inquiry. They did not take the horse down. That's Smitty's Cougar. But Aunt Nellie, a very good ride, actually, here. Saving ground and angled out, wore down a big price as she stepped forward.
And a lot of young horses, they'll be in that kickback. When they get out, it's like all that relief, and then it's like a champagne cork popping out of the bottle.
I like that. Nice analogy, Mig. Musket Man, the winning sire. He was a good one. Maybe at the end of the day, he was a cut below some of the best Grade 1 horses, and certainly was, but he was a hard-trying horse for Eric Fine.
Oh, I think he was in that photo for second with Pioneer of the Nile in the Kentucky Derby when Mind That Bird galloped.
Yep, Mind That Bird. Calvin Burrell, the Mig, Andy, and myself, Jason, saying good night. Next week's show, the Queens County, the Mr. Prospector, and the Los Al Futurity. We'll see you next Monday and Tuesday right here on MSG+.